Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Munciana Courtside. Show number 11. Still season number 6. Down the stretch we come. Semi-state show. Hit it, Biggs.
Yep. Last week we talked about 1A, Lagodi hosting a big tournament at their place. I mean, the regional there, they had number 1 Trinity Lutheran in there.
Mm-hmm.
And they had Springs Valley, which was the top 5 team as well. They started off being Lagodi in the morning.
Yeah, Lagodi's who both of us thought had a really good shot at winning that.
Yeah.
Great season for Lagodi, by the way. But
then Trinity Lutheran ends up sweeping Springs Valley in the final of that.
Trinity Lutheran sweeping out Springs Valley. You know, that was the team last year that I picked against, and they weren't real thrilled with me, but they ended up losing. Trinity Lutheran, very similar this year. It was brought to my attention that they immediately started following you on Twitter after the show and after they swept out when we said they weren't going to win. Trinity Lutheran, we owe you an apology. Bona fide weekend for you guys, and obviously a real threat. I mean, Lagodi is a very good team, a great, historically great program. Springs Valley is as good a program as there is in the state of Indiana, especially in 1A. Very well coached and really continues to build into what's going to be, I think, a super program if everybody stays in place. Trinity Lutheran has been to the big dance, so they know what they're missing. So they're playing with a little bit of maybe a chip on their shoulder at this point. They haven't gotten a lot of love all year long, but they are the number 1 ranked team, and they're a threat.
Yep. Then the Clinton Central, we talked about Covington taking down LCC in the regional to get to that, or the sectional to get into that.
Mm-hmm.
And they fell in straights to Cowan, and then Cowan swept Blue River in the finals to move on.
Yeah, 1A is really weird when you look at some of the people that have beaten people, I mean, all year long. I mean, you know, we start talking about, you know, Pioneer Falls and how they fell was odd, you know, to a team that swept twice in 3. And, you know, Covington, you know, takes out a really good LCC team, an LCC team that is always got to be accounted for because they've got a history that's beyond reproach. Cowan just keeps marching. You know, they took the broom out to both of those, and you know, Cowan is really looks like your favorite in that side of the state. But they just keep taking care of business and kind of moving towards a 1v2 title run with them at Trinity Lutheran. We'll see. There's a couple teams we're going to talk about that like to have something to say about that. But
yeah.
Great run and really good season for Covington and Blue River as well.
Yeah. The other 2 regionals we were kind of talking about was just kind of talked briefly about them was the Pioneer, Mount Morgan Township you were talking about. Pioneer falls down 0-2, battles back, wins set 3 of 4, falls 15-3 in the 5th.
Story of the day, though, was a lot of teams in that regional weekend. A lot of teams fell in the hole 2-0 and roared back. Providence fell in the hole, roared back, and then loses in 5.
Yep.
Talking about the Morgan Township game with Pioneer. Pioneer falls in the hole, roars back, loses. Just an awful lot of that.
Yep.
But I tell you, it goes to show that this time of year, no one's going to go quietly into the night, and everybody's going to give you the best effort. And sometimes, I don't think people understand, you know, they look at them as separate entities, each of those sets, but those sets take a physical toll. And the emotional and physical toll at this stage of the game is really significant. So when you get down to the emotional and physical toll that's placed upon you to even get back in the match is huge. And sometimes you just run out of gas.
Yep.
You know, it's hard to imagine, but it does happen at this time of year.
Yep. And the other one just kind of you're talking about is kind of crazy. The Bloomfield and Hauser game. Hauser takes the first 2 sets. And Bloomfield wins 25-23, 25-23, 15-13, win by 6 total points in the last 3 sets to take home the regional title.
That's poetic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's beautiful. I mean, when you see volleyball like that, and people don't understand this, you know, you look at a match like that where a team wins the last 3 sets, 25-23, 25-23, 15-13. Sometimes people don't realize one missed serve, one replay, one official's call, one delay in the game, and that could be the difference between that match going one.
Could have been over in 3.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
2A regionals we were talking about. Heritage Christian Their regional, we thought it'd be a good little matchup with Hagerstown and those guys. Number 3 Hagerstown versus number 4 HC, and they took them down at straights. And then Heritage Christian takes down Southmont in straights as well to win the.
One of the things when you're looking at the smaller classes, 1A and 2A, when those teams possess multiple kids on their roster that could be Division I players.
Yeah.
When I say Division I, NCAA Division I, those guys pose a problem, and Heritage Christian has a couple of those guys.
Yep.
They sweep out a Hagerstown team that has a Division I player on their team, Reagan Tinkle going to Georgia, in a fine cast surrounder. They sweep them out. They sweep out Southmont. But you got to understand, this Heritage Christian team, I've said all year long, if they pass it, they're going to be tough to knock out.
Yep.
They've got a matchup nightmare in the middle of the court. Both are M1 and M2.
Yep.
Our nightmares. Colvin's going to go to Purdue. She's a high flyer. She's going to play above everybody left in 2A. Lovey is a solid M2, and she's coming off an AAU MVP performance at the age of 15. And so you've got 2 bona fide middles. You've got Snyder setting dishing a rock. I mean, they've got the pieces to beat you. If they can pass it and engage their middles, this may be the best team in the state.
Yep.
Heritage Christian, their hopes all lie on their ability to handle the first ball. Because I tell you, the second and third balls are going to be taken care of by pretty competent folks.
Yep. Then we'll kind of talk about a different one. We talked about Bar Reeve. They swept through theirs pretty easily. Wapahani only had one little hiccup. They went 4 with Wabash. First set they lost, and then they rolled after that. Then the other one we talked about was Fairfield playing Andrean. We thought that evening night. Number 5 Andrean falls.
Yeah, I love these teams. Yeah, I love these 2 teams. I've watched them over the last couple of years. When I get ready to do the TV on 3A and 4A, always sitting there watching the 2A title game, and those guys have been around in those matches, and I like them because they're the old school multi-sport athletes, just tough, strong kids, and they're resilient and they're physical and crazy competitive. So I love that matchup, and I'm not surprised. We talked about Fairfield. If it hadn't been for Burris, Brownstown and Fairfield both have about 100 state championships.
Yep.
But Fairfield has as good a shot as anybody to get back in it.
Yep.
Great game.
Regionals in 3A, Norwell should just be called Upset Central. Belmont rolls in to start the day, beats Angola in 5, takes down number 7.
That's somewhat of an upset.
Yeah.
Because Angola coming off the big win over Dwenger.
And then Northwood wins their match in the morning in straights, and then once again
roared out. Won the first 2.
Won the first 2.
Belmont comes back, and in fact, I thought Belmont had lost until I saw the tweet from their AD telling them what a great performance, a gutsy performance, and I had to look. I was on my way. I was driving and kind of tracked down what happened, and that's what a huge weekend for Belmont and Craig Kroll.
10 sets, and they're moving on now.
Yeah, Craig Kroll has had a great history. He's a legend up in that area, but. This team was not as good as some of those Alex Filling teams or those teams in the past that have won state championships. But this team has got kind of a destiny to it. 3A is kind of riddled. All of the guys that would have been your favorites are long gone. Number 1, number 2, number 4, they're all gone. They're all out of the picture. So as you look into your Final Four, only number 3 is still standing in 3A.
You got Evansville Memorial.
Oh, that's right. That is right.
But
so you look
2,
at
4, 5,
everybody
6,
else
7,
in front of them
guys.
is gone. And they win 2 major matchups, beat an Angola team that may have been the hottest team in the state in 5. Come back, they get rolled.
I thought
first 2 sets.
Bad.
Yeah, bad. And then come back and charge back and take Northwood. This team has a ton of momentum.
Oh yeah.
And they're good. They're young, but they're good.
Yeah. Then we'll talk about the Danville regional. We kind of talked about Buff. I really was feeling well about them. Thought they were going to roll. Ran into a good Brownsburg Central team. They got swept by those guys.
Well, she hadn't had enough time to put the Treadway magic on that Brebeuf team. That Brebeuf team, I thought Cathedral and Brebeuf may have been 2 teams that I was really excited to see. 2 teams that are doing a little bit of rebuild, and and reculturing. And I couldn't be prouder of those two programs. Brebeuf was a little up and down late, but they were young.
Yep.
They were really, really young, and I think that's what you get with young. Brownstown Central, that area of the state has done nothing but produce championship level volleyball for the last 50 years. And so that doesn't surprise me. And they were the higher seed. I think that Brownstown is going to be a tough out moving forward.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be interesting.
Yep. Regionals and 4A, we'll go start with who I almost forgot last week. The Noblesville Regional, pretty much a home match for the HSE squad. They take on a Homestead team and handle those guys in straights. And then it came down.
That game was interesting. They handled them in 4. They beat them in 4.
Did it?
Yeah, they beat them in 4. HSE loses set 1 after being up big.
What?
Yeah, you can keep looking, brother. That's why I get paid the big bucks. HSE gets up. They're up big by 6 in the first set. They lose to McCutcheon. McCutcheon comes back.
No, I was talking about Homestead.
Oh, I thought you were talking about McCutcheon.
Sorry.
You said you almost forgot. Oh, HSE sweeps Homestead. That was
like,
I thought you were skipping ahead again.
No.
Homestead HSE. We knew that was coming.
Yeah. And
HSE
then
too
you're
much.
correct, 4.
Yeah, McCutcheon goes in 4. I see where you're going. McCutcheon in 4. That's a big match for HSE.
Mm-hmm.
That we talked about getting a monkey off the back in the sectional. Now they start to roll into he's in an area where he's only been once before.
Yep.
Is semi-state, but McCutcheon was a team we thought would be a hindrance to them, and a lot of people were surprised how easily. And I say easily, they were up by 6 in the first set and lost. They win the next 3. The fourth set, a little tainted because Humphrey's really a tremendous volleyball player, gets hurt from McCutcheon. Much like the Chacon thing a couple years ago, they lose all momentum and HSE rolls them in that 4th set. But, this HSE team is playing at the right time.
Yep. And,
they're out to prove that they're for real. And I tell you, the McCutcheon game is a huge move up the ladder for those guys. And, it's fun. Yep. They move into semi-state.
We'll talk about Center Grove and those guys in a second. We'll talk about LaPorte's regional. Number 8 Crown Point takes down number 6 Munster in 5 to start the day.
Yeah.
And then they end up winning and beating Penn in 4 in the finals. So that'll be your matchup in the North now.
Well, Coach Duncan early on said she felt good about what she's got, and we'll see how good.
Yep.
She got them back to semi-state, which is a heck of a venture. That's huge.
Yep.
But they're going to be a tough out just because they're much like I was talking about other teams. They know what they're missing out on. They know what it feels like to be in a state championship, and to be really honest, they have unfinished business at that level. The last time those guys, and we'll talk a little, were in that Frankfurt host.
Yep.
Things went pretty well for them. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Yep. Newcastle just hit on what they did this weekend. Rolled. They took down Cathedral and Roncalli on the way to the regional title.
Cathedral, a most improved team I'd seen all year long, and I think the future is really bright for that's a legacy program. Yep. When you talk about programs that were off the charts historical, that's one of them. And man, I tell you what, just watching Mary do her thing on the sidelines, it kind of flashbacks of Gene Kesterson had the Irish coat on and everything else, and the same fiery disposition, and her kids respond. They gave Newcastle all they wanted in set 1, and kind of got a tough spell passing in set 2. Got a couple tough calls in set 3, but they really held their own.
Yeah,
and they're a much improved team. Good Roncalli team. Got a lot of fight in them. Great pro. Fiery coaching. They just didn't have enough to match up to the physicality of Newcastle, and Newcastle rolls through.
Yep. And the last one we'll talk about, Providence played Castle to start the day. Providence beats them in 4. Columbus East, Center Grove do battle. Center Grove takes them down in 3. Sets up the evening match. And the good old Center Grove squad takes down our beloved Providence squad. It will not be heading back to Hinkle.
And it was one of those ones that you knew was going to go 5.
Yep.
Center Grove up 2-0. Providence roars back and then just kind of runs out of gas down the stretch. It's part of the process. And, one of the things that you're going to see, it's going to be really critical, semi-state and on, getting that first set.
Yep.
getting that first set is huge because it takes a lot of pressure off of you at a time where pressure is just building up. You know, you don't know how good teams are at this time of year are a lot like tea. You don't know how strong they are until they're put in hot water, and there's a lot of hot water at this time of year, and teams are really stressed a little, and set one is huge, and you saw that throughout the day. But Center Grove, you know, I'd like to see footage on that. Center Grove must have played really good because that was a really athletic,
Correct,
very well coached Providence team. And for, you know, Chris Dewey and the gang, you know, he said he wanted another shot at Newcastle. He's going to get it, and that's a great win for the Center Grove guys.
no doubt. Talk about the semi-states coming up now. The 1A North. 1A, you got 4 ranked teams left.
Mm-hmm.
You got number 1, number 2, 6, and 10 left. At Frankfurt, the host, it'll be number 6 Morgan Township versus number 2 Cowan at 4 o'clock.
You know, Morgan Township is a little bit, you know, up and down throughout the year. You looked at their records; they lose that Pioneer team twice in the season, and then come back and win. And got, as you put it, a young lady that's going to Purdue. I think the
6 rotation left.
probably the best athlete or the best volleyball player on the floor will be on the Morgan Township side of the court. Cowan, I think, is probably a little deeper, a little more balanced, and so you've got a Cowan team that's going to have a scoring threat all 6 rotations against a Morgan Township team that will probably win 3 and have to really scrap like crazy to get 3.
Correct.
This is about Cowan making do when Morgan Township stud is in the back row, and they've got to play even in the front and dominate when she's in the back. I like Cowan. I like Cowan's chances to do that.
Yep.
I like Cowan for the depth. I like the Cowan for the back. They got 2 good pins, solid setting. Cowan team's on a roll right now too.
Yeah.
So that'd be interesting. I
think it's going to be a good game, like you talked about. I think it's 100% based on if that kid goes off. They can keep that kid a little bit.
If she can bomb from the back row and earn and
Well,
keep
she comes
it even,
out sometimes, so it's one of those things you just never know what's going to happen there too.
I just like Cowan's 6 rotations.
Yeah, I agree. And then the 1A South, they're at the Jasper location. Number 10 Bloomfield will be taking on number 1 Trinity Lutheran at 4 o'clock same time.
No, I stand corrected on Trinity Lutheran. They made a believer out of me. I mean, I tell you, Lagoti's good. Springs Valley's good. I know Bloomfield worked their way through this, but I really think that Trinity Lutheran, just because they've been there, having been to the championships or been to Worthen is a huge deal because you know what you're missing. Everybody else is dreaming of being there. The only thing that tops dreaming is actually having been there and seeing what it's really like. It makes you hungry. You know, we could dream of having a milkshake, but once you have one, you got to have one. These guys have got to get back. And I like the chances of 1 and 2 matching up in 1A.
I agree.
I really do.
I think that's your early match on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got semi-state 2A. We're talking about 2A North. They're at the Plymouth location. Number 9 Fairfield will be battling number 2 Wapahani at 1 o'clock.
Fairfield, a much more experienced team. Wapahani, very young. Sometimes I like young because young is too naive or they just haven't seen enough to be scared. You know, these cats, a lot of these WAP guys are kids that were on a middle school team that never lost a match.
Correct.
For 3 years. And so they're doing what they do. They don't realize this is one of the biggest, they don't realize what they're about to do. Fairfield, they do know. And they've got kids that have been there. They know exactly where they're at. They've got kids that have actually played meaningful roles in teams that have been there. That should be a war. And that's a weird matchup too, athletically. Fairfield, very athletic. Wapahani, very volleyballish in how they go about things. A lot of kids that are just volleyball players. I like Wapahani in that one.
So do I.
One, you know, that's so much a part of my life. But I like this team all year long. I called Wapahani to be in the state championship the first show of the year. And Fairfield, I think, it scares me a little bit if I'm a Wapahani guy. But I'm still going to stick by my guns.
Yep, I agree. I think number 2 WAP rolls on as well. Mm-hmm. Number 2 or 2A South, you got Columbus East hosting. Number 1, Bar Reeve, and number 4, Heritage Christian, 1 o'clock.
Well, Bar Reeve is significant. Obviously, they're number 1 for a reason. All they've done, is win enough to move up from 1A to 2A, and enough to be the number 1 team in 2A. They're loaded that way, and once again, they got expectation on them. I mean, they expect to be in the finals. Yep. Heritage Christian has been dreaming of the finals. It's their vision. This is Bar Reeve's life. I'll be honest, I like Heritage Christian. I said it the first show that I liked Wapahani and Heritage Christian in the state championship, and I'm not gonna move from that. I think that if it doesn't happen, it's because Heritage Christian's ball control breaks down. If they can take care of the ball, they're too strong in the middle of the court for Bar Reeve.
Yep. We talked about would the number 1 versus the number 2 be there. I'm going by March Madness kind of prediction here. Can't take all 1s to the finals. I'm going with 4 as well.
Okay.
The 3A Semi-State North, we got Plymouth hosting 2 unranked teams.
Yeah, the most mixed up, division of the group. 3A is the only one to not have 4 ranked teams left.
Correct.
And the first matchup is 2 unranked teams.
Yep. So one's going to the finals.
Yeah, it's awesome. One of those unranked teams is going to be in the state championships. And, rankings, even though we do one on the show all the time, who cares? I've always told people, give me rankings at the end. I don't want rankings in the middle. I don't want rankings in the beginning. I want to know at the end. And so rankings don't really matter to anybody.
Yep.
Much less Belmont or New Prairie.
Yep.
But Belmont would be my pick there, just because they're on a roll. But once again, Craig's been there multiple times. He's won it.
Yeah.
So he knows. And, there's people that go to a state championship and they get beat or it doesn't go well. And they say, well, next year. And next year never comes back.
Mm-hmm.
So to make it there once is a miracle. To make it there multiple times is a blessing. But it also, being there multiple times, it gives you an opportunity to understand how to navigate that day, navigate the week in between, navigate semi-state.
The hype and everything.
Yeah, I like Belmont.
Yep.
I like Belmont.
That was interesting. But I got to go with Craig as well but I think it's going to be, my luck is Craig will make me look like an idiot and he'll be down 2-0 and then somehow crawl back into it and win at 5. In the South, you got at the Jasper location, you got number 3, Brownstown Central versus number 1, Evansville Memorial.
I'm going to go Evansville Memorial. I took a ton of heat all year long.
I definitely thought you were going to go Brownstown.
No, I like Brownstown. I like this matchup. I think this may be the best game of the day. I think it's going to be a really good matchup.
Yep.
I like Evansville Memorial because all Evansville Memorial has done is win.
Mm-hmm.
When you go through a season, that's what I was going to say with 1 loss, you've taken care of business. And, a lot of people didn't give these guys respect. And all year long, we kept them up in the rankings and everybody was banging on us. I like the team. All they know how to do is win. And all you got to do at this time of year is win your last one. So I'm Evansville Memorial.
Correct. 3 1s will be making. That's all I got to say. Semi-state, it's a preview. For the 4A North, you got Frankfurt is the host. That'll be the second match. It'll be number 8 Crown Point versus number 4 HSE at 6 o'clock.
Will you and your wife hang out for that game? Because I see your wife is playing the 4 o'clock match at Frankfurt. And I know that historically you've been deemed a curse. Like the Billy Goat curse, the curse of the Bambino, the Madden curse. The Gardner curse on HSE is real. It's real.
It's not real. The last game they won with me in attendance. They won the mud sock. The Covenant mud sock that he was afraid when I showed up. He almost maybe peed himself there a little bit, Jason, because he saw me roll in. He thought, I'm going to lose the mud sock. And he won. There's no such thing as a jinx. You know what, Jason? You won the big match you needed to win.
The big fella pulled out his air quotes on that mud sock thing, so he's dead serious about this. But I was really just asking if you and your wife were going to make an evening of Frankfurt and just hang out. Blue Chips was filmed there.
My plan is
there's a lot of good. There was a huge. It was a big movie in my youth. Blue Chips. I thought maybe you'd stay and tour the facility a little, look at some of the.
It'll be right after the game. But here's the thing: I'm not. You know what I might do? I might just stand, like at the minute, maybe like right beside Jason for like the warm ups.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get him a little nervous, get him a little fired up. Then I'll leave.
Okay, another.
Just so the curse.
So you're leaving regardless. You're not staying for that match.
I haven't decided yet.
If your wife loses the earlier match, are you leaving?
I haven't made a decision either way.
You haven't been married long enough to make that call. If she loses, they're out. I'm telling you right now. Crown Point HSE. Crown Point. Great coach. Chacon playing and trying to get back to the big stage one last time. A stage that really didn't turn out real well last time. Kind of tragic, in fact. But
yeah.
I will tell you what I said earlier. Several years ago, a highly rated Yorktown team that no one thought could be beat rolled into Frankfort as the host of that semi-state and played a Crown Point team that everybody kind of looked past. Mm-hmm. And Crown Point beat Yorktown that day to go to the state championship. Would have been 3 straight state championships for Yorktown had that not happened. Crown Point for the longest time was the last match Yorktown had lost until this year, 2 years later, when Newcastle beat them. Crown Point pulled one of the greatest upsets ever in the state championship series. So with that said, I'm taking HSE. Taking HSE because I tell you, ball control is absolutely on all cylinders right now. They're getting quality setting. I'm still a little worried about the vaunted 4-2 offense, but he's getting enough offensive production out of his pins to get home. It's a team that is relying on old school tactics, meaning they're defending it and passing it, and they're trying to wear people out with long rallies. I like HSE in a long rally type game against Crown Point. I take HSE to get to the state championship and put Jason in that seat for the first time ever in Worthing.
Uh-huh. I will say this: if I'm in attendance, HSE wins. If I'm not in attendance, HSE wins. Jason goes to the finals.
All right. Strong word.
There you go. No curse. 4A South, Columbus East will be hosting the number 1 Newcastle Trojans, and they'll be battling the number 9 Center Grove at 3 p.m.
I anticipate this to be, an absolute war. I think that Brownstown Central game will be that Brownstown Central Evansville Memorial game will be an interesting matchup. Newcastle Center Grove arguably pits the 2 most celebrated setters in the state, Melanie Schaffmaster, MJ Hamill, both going to the Big Ten, Minnesota, Wisconsin, as your floor generals. Both teams have a big physical middle, Smith and Bogus. Both teams have very good pins. The L1s for both teams are both terminators. This game is really going to come down to, can Center Grove take care of the ball and utilize their middles and open up their pins? If they can get the ball to Hamill, who will make the right set. This is unlike most teams you play against in high school, where the setter will not make the set you want. This kid will make the right decision with the ball. If they get her the ball in a position where she can navigate and negotiate, she could be dangerous. I think I like Newcastle in a war, a much better match than most everybody's putting out there. Now, I know that, a lot of folks said that the Center Grove is promised a victory in the third time. This is the third time these 2 teams have met, and it is very difficult to beat a good team twice, much less 3 times. That's what Newcastle is trying to navigate. I like Newcastle, but in a game that is absolutely going to really surprise some folks. I think it's going to really go beyond what expectations are, and that's a good ticket. That would be a great ticket. You get to see a Bar Reeve team play Heritage Christian, and then the nightcap Newcastle Center Grove. If you're going to spend money, I think I'm heading to Columbus East and hanging out with Stacy Pennard and the gang and watching really 2 of the best matches you could possibly see.
Yeah. What's interesting is I was just looking at it off just kind of glancing back, every single South has the number one team.
South Florida.
Yeah. But the Castle gets out the brooms. 3-0, I'm calling it. 3-0.
That flashback day. Oh, Newcastle.
They're rolling. They're moving on.
You heard it here first from Randy. We disagree on that one. I regardless, get out and see some semi-state action. If you're going to sit, take 4 hours out of your day, and it's later starts. They're 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock starts to the day. You can use your morning, get done with all your chores, hit the road, get a dog, get a pop, and watch some really, really good kids play some really, really good volleyball. This is the time of year it makes our state special.
Yeah. Another thing that you got to love about it is multiple classes at some places.
Yeah.
At all the places.
Yep.
So you're going to watch a little bit of small ball. You're going to see some bigger schools. That's a cool thing. 5 people still left in our top 10. Just throwing that out there. Other than that, we're ready to roll.
Yeah, it's going to start to dwindle after next week. But have a great week. Be good sports fans, and we'll see you next week.